Pictus catfish. At first glance, this next fish looks like it was drawn in black and white. The Pictus catfish has a pale, silvery body covered in dark spots, making it one of the easiest aquarium catfish to recognize at a glance. Native to the Amazon and Orinoco river basins of South America, it's a relatively small species, with recorded specimens reaching around 4.3 inches. But size isn't what makes this fish interesting. Watch the barbels. Its whisker-like sensory structures are remarkably long, with one pair capable of stretching nearly the length of its own body, helping it navigate and hunt in dark, murky water. Unlike the slow, bottom-hugging catfish most people picture, Pictus catfish are surprisingly active swimmers, constantly patrolling rather than sitting still, and they're opportunistic predators. Anything small enough to fit in their mouth is fair game. Harmless looking as it is, this little spotted fish is still very much a predator. And the next catfish makes the Pictus look enormous by comparison. Cory catfish, short for Corydoris, are among the smallest and most recognizable catfish in the entire aquarium hobby. Many species stay around 2 inches or less, and their armored bodies come in an incredible range of patterns, some covered in spots, some marked with bold bands, and the famous panda Cory sporting a black and white pattern that makes it look almost like a miniature bear underwater. Here's the strange part. These tiny fish can actually gulp air directly from the surface, and when oxygen levels in the water drop too low, they absorb oxygen straight through their digestive tract, an adaptation that lets them survive conditions that will leave most fish gasping. They're also deeply social, occurring in groups in the wild, and keeping several together in an aquarium encourages far more natural behavior than housing them alone. Tiny as they are, Corys aren't just decorative bottom cleaners, they're specialized little survivors. Gafftopsail catfish. This next species proves catfish aren't restricted to rivers and lakes at all. The Gafftopsail catfish is a marine species found throughout the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and along the Atlantic coast, instantly identifiable by its dramatic sail-like dorsal fin. Those long dorsal and pectoral spines aren't just for show either. Like many catfish, this species can deliver a genuinely painful injury to anyone careless enough to handle it without caution. But the strangest part of this fish isn't the fin, it's the father. Male Gafftopsail catfish carry fertilized eggs inside their mouths for the entire incubation period, going without normal feeding the whole time just to protect their developing young. An extraordinary investment from a fish most anglers see as just another saltwater catch reeled in off a pier. And now we're moving from the ocean to one of the strangest habitats any catfish has ever conquered, a coral reef. Striped eel catfish. Most catfish live in fresh water. Some live in coastal waters. This next species took things much further. The striped eel catfish is found throughout parts of the Indo-Pacific, including coral reefs, estuaries, and shallow coastal habitats. And unlike the solitary catfish most people imagine, juveniles gather into dense coordinated schools that can number up to 100 individuals, moving together across the reef floor like a single living mass of stripes. Don't let that appearance fool you, though. This species carries venomous spines capable of causing severe pain, and in rare, well-documented cases, its sting has proven fatal to humans, making it one of the very few catfish on Earth where venomous genuinely means life-threatening. The next time you see a strange striped mass moving across a tropical reef, it might not be eels at all. It might be a school of venomous catfish. Believe it or not, the next species is venomous too, and it doesn't even need saltwater to do it. Stinging catfish. The stinging catfish is a freshwater species found across parts of South and Southeast Asia, and its name isn't an exaggeration. The sharp, serrated spines on its fins are loaded with venom potent enough to cause intense, long-lasting pain, and because this fish is also an important food species across much of its range, people who catch and handle it at local markets know exactly where those spines are before they ever touch it. Here's the part that makes it more than just dangerous. This species can breathe atmospheric air, adapted to survive in oxygen-poor ponds, ditches, marshes, and rice paddies where most ordinary fish would struggle to survive at all. It's not simply a dangerous fish, it's a fish engineered for survival. Things only get bigger from here. Tiger shovel-nose catfish. This is exactly the kind of fish that causes a problem in the aquarium hobby. A young tiger shovel-nose catfish looks almost perfect in the store. Dramatic black stripes, long barbels, an unmistakable shovel-shaped snout, and a manageable size. Then it grows and keeps growing. Adults can reach 2.5 to 3 feet or more. They're active predators built to hunt substantial prey, and they can live 18 to 25 years, requiring well over 250 gallons of space to genuinely thrive. That means the small, attractive juvenile sold at a pet store can eventually become a fish that needs a dedicated, room-sized setup for 2 decades or longer. Buying one isn't a short-term aquarium decision. It's a multi-decade commitment to a large predator, which is exactly why experienced keepers consistently warn beginners away from this species. But even the tiger shovelnose isn't the biggest catfish on this list. African sharptooth catfish. This next species is one of the ultimate survivors in the entire catfish order. Native across much of Africa and parts of the Middle East, the African sharptooth catfish can live in quiet backwaters, isolated pools, swamps, and rivers, including habitats where oxygen levels drop dangerously low. It manages this through a specialized accessory breathing organ that lets it pull oxygen directly from the air whenever gill breathing alone isn't enough. Recorded specimens have reached roughly 5 feet 7 inches and up to 132 pounds, making this a serious freshwater predator by any measure. But its survival abilities go beyond raw size. This same species has been introduced widely outside its native range, and the exact traits that make it such a remarkable survivor at home can turn it into a formidable invasive threat somewhere else. In its native waters, those adaptations are a survival advantage. Introduced into the wrong ecosystem, they become an ecological problem. And now we're heading even deeper into Africa, toward a predator built purely for power. The Vundu catfish is one of the largest freshwater catfish anywhere in Africa, found throughout major river systems including the Zambezi Basin, and capable of growing well over 5 feet long. At that size, it isn't hunting insects off the riverbed. It's an opportunistic predator with a massive mouth built to engulf substantial prey and a powerful body that lets it dominate its environment outright. For sport anglers, that power is exactly the appeal. A fish this large doesn't just resist the hook, it fights with the strength of its entire body, and when a Vundu decides to run, the angler is in for a serious battle. Not every African catfish needs to become a giant to be impressive, though. The next one gets its name from an entirely different animal. The giraffe catfish. The giraffe catfish earns its name from the mottled pattern across its body, which vaguely resembles the markings of its namesake. Native to African freshwater systems, it's a far more modest-sized fish than the Vundu, but its behavior is what makes it stand out. Rather than staying glued to the riverbed like most catfish, it actively moves through open water while hunting, feeding on a mix of insects, crustaceans, and smaller fish, and it becomes especially active as light levels fall in the evening. While the Vundu dominates through sheer size, the giraffe catfish survives through stealth and opportunism instead. The final 2 fish on this list take us in the opposite direction entirely. Instead of bigger, smaller, much smaller. Zebra pleco. This might be the single most visually striking catfish in the entire aquarium trade. The zebra pleco is covered in bold black and white stripes that make it look more like a miniature zebra than a fish, but its beauty comes with a serious problem. This species is endemic to a remarkably small stretch of Brazil's Xingu River, meaning its entire wild population is concentrated in one tightly restricted area with nowhere else on the planet to retreat to. The zebra pleco has faced major pressure from habitat alteration linked to the Belo Ante hydroelectric dam project, on top of decades of heavy demand from the ornamental fish trade. Today, the species is officially classified as critically endangered, and Brazil has imposed strict restrictions on its wild capture and export. This isn't just a beautiful aquarium fish, it's a reminder that some of the most spectacular animals on Earth can also be some of the most fragile. Otocinclus. If the African sharptooth catfish represents the extreme upper end of catfish size, this next species is nearly the exact opposite. Otocinclus, often nicknamed Otos, generally stay around an inch or so long depending on the species, making them some of the smallest catfish most aquarium owners will ever keep. They're prized specifically for their algae-eating habits and calm temperament, but their tiny size doesn't make them easy to care for. Otocinclus are notoriously sensitive to sudden shifts in water quality, poor nutrition, and improper acclimation, and a tank that looks perfectly clean to the eye doesn't necessarily provide enough natural algae to actually feed them. A properly settled Oto can live for years. A poorly acclimated one can decline within days. Small as they are, they're far more specialized than their simple appearance suggests.